everyone, this is Derek, and we're here at the Palm Beach County Courthouse. Just wrapped up the civil trial dealing with Mr. Bradley Edwards, attorney who's represented many of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. First off, thank you so much for your work and for everything you've done.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
This goes to the more salacious rumors, but I would like you to just, whatever you can say on it. Obviously, our current president has had relationships with Epstein in the past, and there are those Katie Johnson and maybe other victims who accuse Trump of being involved in things like this. In my experience, Trump supporters will not listen to anything along those lines. Obviously, we're not a court of law here right now, but are those claims of that case was dropped? It was dropped before it went to court. In your opinion, as a lawyer and your experience, is there anything you can say as to the validity of those claims, or whether or not there will be any more about that?
Nothing at all. The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, "Let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know," and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
And that was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that. I definitely heard that. I don't know that it was Trump himself as opposed to a manager there.
Trump's club, so
yeah,
people credit him.
I've heard the rumor that Epstein was kicked out of there for allegedly trying to pick up somebody's daughter or something like that. But
hey, welcome into Courageous Media. Really appreciate you rolling up today. So we have got to cover the breaking news that the Democrats have tried another hoax. They are trying once again to salaciously tie Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, and it has once again failed. It has collapsed. It has backfired right in their face. It's like they really want to stick their face up to the exhaust of a car and just get pounded every time. They are so stupid to try to do this again. So you saw that clip, you seen that, you heard that, to quote somebody that I know. And that is the prosecutor, the federal prosecutor down in Florida when they went after Epstein the first time. Now, granted, Epstein got kind of a sweetheart deal. But anyway, there he says right there in black and white, President Donald Trump was the only one who came forward. He was the whistleblower. He sat down and gave us as much as we wanted. In all the subpoenas we issued, Trump sat down and told us everything. And no, Trump has never been implicated in any of this. But yet here we go with the Democrats trying once again to make that happen. They are desperate to try to tie Trump to Epstein. Now, realize that if they ever had anything real, it would have been released in billboard fashion by the Biden administration in the 4 years that they controlled the DOJ, the FBI. They had everything they would ever need to tie Trump to Epstein if they had any real evidence. They weren't. They were smart enough not to manufacture something and try to tie Trump, because then again, that would also be something that could be debunked. But they don't have anything. They never have had anything. But yet here they are again, because they are trying to somehow end the news cycle on their failed government shutdown and the fact that they caved to President Trump and the fact that they got nothing for it. They are trying desperately to change the news cycle. Check this out from Speaker Johnson. Just another debunk of this entire idea. Before we get into going through the actual hoax that they have tried to perpetrate this time. Check this out.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago.
So there you got Speaker Johnson again, reiterating the fact that Trump was the whistleblower. Now, I want to dive into a great content creator, Vince Dow. Vince goes through, so we're going to use Vince's video. We're going to check out the CNN leading story first. And then we're going to check out Vince Dow's. He goes through what these emails actually say. You'll see him. You'll see the emails. Realize that the bombshell story that the Democrats released is 3 emails. Did they release all the emails, all of the context, everything? No, they cherry picked 3 emails, then redacted them, then released them. So let's dive right into this breaking bombshell story that the Democrats are trying to perpetrate. And you are going to absolutely laugh at this stuff when it's all said and done. As we do that, please, just want to welcome everybody in. Thanks so much for watching Courageous Media. Please smash that like button for me. Subscribe. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, which is trying to keep us in a box. But if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. But here we go. Check this out.
Emails that show Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times in private correspondence that he had with people, including Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously his longtime associate and accomplice, and also the author Michael Wolff, in a time span of about the last 15 years or so in these emails. Now, these are coming out from the House Oversight Committee. They had issued a bipartisan subpoena to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, John, as you know, earlier this year. And so they've gotten their hands on a trove of documents. And these are emails that included Jeffrey Epstein on them. They were sent either to him or from him that mentioned Donald Trump before he was in office and also while he was in office during his first term. And I want to walk you through these emails of what exactly we are reading in Jeffrey Epstein's own words in these emails that have been released by the House Oversight Committee. And in one of
So before we move on, realize that these came from the Epstein estate. That's very important because it's going to weigh heavily in some of the coverage that we see later on as CNN debunks the Democrats' own backfired attempted hoax. But realize this, they came from the Epstein estate. They did not come from the Trump administration. They were not released by DNI Gabbard. This was not a whistleblower inside of the DOJ. They got these from the Epstein estate. Here we go.
them, Jeffrey Epstein says, and I should note, Trump did not send or receive any of these messages. He's not a party to these emails, John, but these are emails from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd.
Yeah, so you can see where this is going. The emails reference Donald Trump's name.
All right, so this is Vince Dow. Go check him out on YouTube. He's a great content creator. But we're going to walk through, we're going to use his video to walk through each of the emails that the Democrats' so-called bombshell consists of.
In them. Okay. Well, let's read for you what the House Oversight Democrats are saying about this. Oversight Dems have received new emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that raise serious questions about Donald Trump and his knowledge of Epstein's horrific crimes. Read them for yourselves. It's time to end this cover-up and release the files. Okay, well, let's read what it says. So you have one here. It's from Jeffrey Epstein himself.
Okay, and also check that out. Log that for later on when we get to the end of this. What the Democrats want is release all the Epstein files. That's what they're claiming on X. Here's this bombshell. Release all the Epstein files. Just keep that in mind. Here we go.
It states, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, whose name is redacted here, spent hours at my home with him. He has never once been mentioned by the police chief, etc. in 75%. I'm 75% there. Okay, so that's what one of them says. Now, again, we have redacted victim Mar-a-Lago, something redacted here. Trump said he asked me to resign, was never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Now, it's like, wait a minute. He asked Ghislaine to stop. The police chief, and in the official investigations, what Epstein is referencing here is that he's never been mentioned to the authorities as Epstein actively was getting investigated by, 2011 at this point.
So check out these emails. Trump is the dog that doesn't bark. He's never been mentioned. In other words, Trump is the dog that isn't getting hit. So the Dems are trying to spin this some other way. Trump's the one that never said anything. Trump's the one. No. Trump is the dog that never barked. Trump is the dog that never got hit. Trump is the dog that never got mentioned by the victims to the authorities. That's what they're talking about here. The victims don't mention Trump to the authorities. Why? Because we know from other sources that Trump never did anything wrong. That's been confirmed by one of the victims and by Ghislaine Maxwell herself. We're going to show you that proof that evidence at the end of this. But that's what these emails mean. These emails aren't even the bombshell the Democrats want them to be. They released them, they packaged them up and said, look, Trump's mentioned in the Epstein emails. And it's like they didn't even read them. I believe they did read them. What they're counting on is that their voter base is utterly stupid and ignorant. They are counting on a bunch of low IQ voters in America not doing any research, not actually reading the emails for themselves, merely taking the headline that the Democrats, the talking point that the Democrats offer up to the propaganda media, which then creates a headline, Trump in Epstein emails, and hopes that the low IQ voters go, oh, Trump's mentioned the Epstein emails. Well, then he must be guilty. They're counting on voters not actually doing any work whatsoever or even checking another source. That's why we're doing this. We are debunking this along with Vince and others right live, right on air, so that everybody knows this is a complete and utter nothing burger. In fact, it's the opposite of a nothing burger. It further exacerbates, it further exonerates Trump. So let's keep going.
So already it's like, hold on a second. This doesn't seem to be proving the point that Democrats want it to be, but here's the last one. This is in 2015, and it's from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, keep in mind that Michael Wolff is kind of like this respected journalist figure by the mainstream establishment, by the Democrat side, blah, blah, blah. Does raise serious questions on this guy, honestly, why he's having these communications with Jeffrey Epstein. But nonetheless, here's what he says. I think you should let him hang himself, referencing Donald Trump here, it appears. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is believed to be outlawed in a Trump regime. So in a second, we'll explain.
So you've basically got three emails. One that says Trump is the dog that's not getting hit. Trump is not being mentioned by any of the victims. Trump is not implicated in anything. You've got a second email that literally says Trump knew about all the girls. That's why he asked Ghislaine to stop. Oh, wait, geez, okay, that's the opposite. Yes, Trump knew about Epstein trying to recruit girls at Mar-a-Lago. That's why he asked Ghislaine to stop, and that's why he kicked or had Epstein kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. So you've got two emails that are the exact opposite of what the Dems are trying to portray. And then you've got the third email, which basically says, hey, why don't you try to use this for political hay? Why don't you see if Trump will claim that he wasn't on the plane or at Epstein's house at any point in time? If he says he wasn't, then you've got him. Then you can make political hay out of this. You can create a scandal that has no backing, but it's still a scandal because Trump denied it. But they couldn't do that because Trump never denied zero involvement. He said, yes, I've been on the plane. Yes, I've been to Epstein's house way back when. There was a point in time where Epstein was trying to inculcate himself into every rich, powerful individual he could get anywhere close to. And so they all got invited to parties. They got invited on the plane. A lot of people went. Trump went basically to his house a couple times, went on the plane and said, no, I'm out of this. You guys are creepy. You're doing weird stuff. I'm out. Then he shows up at Mar-a-Lago and Trump says, get out of Mar-a-Lago. You're done. So you've got three emails that the Democrats claim are a bombshell scandal. Trump was in the Epstein emails. And all three of them are, when you look at them in context, are the exact opposite of what they want to say. And we haven't even discussed the fact of who the redacted victim is. Let's keep going.
Again, the context here and who this redacted victim is and why the entire thing is just completely bogus. But thus far, okay, even without the context, again, if you just consider what's really appearing to be said here, first of all, again, he's never been mentioned. Well, never been mentioned to who exactly? This is why Democrats don't want you to understand the context, because he immediately says the police chief, etc. Again, in other words, the victim and the accusers here never brought up Donald Trump to the authorities, is what's being said, because, and the implication of that is what, right? Because he was never actually involved in wrongdoing, but we'll explain that more in a second. So he's never been mentioned. Keep in mind, that's to the authorities from the victims. Notice how the victim's name, who spent hours at the house with Donald Trump, is redacted here. We'll explain for you in a second who that victim is. But of course, in the second one, right? And I quote, "Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Jelaine to stop." So you mean...
Right. So you're getting that. So we've got great context from Vince. Now you can see what the three emails actually say, the context in general that they're in. Now they realize that there's hundreds of other emails that they don't release because they don't want you to see those. They cherry picked three, and then the Democrats redacted the victim's name. We now know that the victim, the redacted victim's name, is none other than Virginia Giuffre, who specifically on multiple occasions and in sworn testimony said Trump never did anything wrong. She never witnessed Trump do anything wrong. She never heard of Trump doing anything wrong. It was never rumored that Trump did anything wrong. She utterly exonerated Trump, and not just her. Realize that it was others as well. So check this out. We'll start with Virginia Giuffre. Here we've got her sworn testimony. Again, this is sworn testimony. Let me blow this up a little bit. But you ever observed them together, i.e. Trump? No, not that I can actually remember. Not off the top of my head. When did Donald Trump flirt with you? He didn't. That's inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey Epstein's house? No, not that I can remember. On his island? No, not that I can remember. In Mexico? No. New Mexico? Not that I can remember. In New York? Not that I can remember. All right. If you could turn to the second page. So Virginia Giuffre repeatedly said he never did anything wrong. She did it in sworn testimony. Now, this was backed up, again, by Ghislaine Maxwell when she was interviewed by the DOJ. Check this out.
I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
So you've even got Epstein's co-conspirator saying Trump was not involved in this. So now we know, when you look at the entire context, Trump was the whistleblower to the federal prosecutor in Florida. He sat down with him after that guy sent out subpoena after subpoena after subpoena to a whole bunch of people, none of whom would talk to him. Trump said, "I'll give you as much time as you need. I'll tell you everything I know." Trump sat down with him, gave him valuable information, spilled the beans on everything that he knew. When Trump realized what Epstein was doing at Mar-a-Lago, trying to recruit girls for his little blackmail honeypot operation, Trump said, not happening. He told Ghislaine to stop, and he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. So, and now we know from the co-conspirator and the victim in sworn testimony that Trump never did anything. He was never involved in any of these shenanigans. So this got so bad that even CNN itself had to push back on this whole thing because they don't want now to get labeled as the purveyor of utterly fake and libelous, slanderous news. So they are now, CNN is doing a little bit of actual journalisming. Check this out, because they had Jasmine Crockett. I won't say what I think her name really should be, but they had Jasmine Crockett, Ghetto Jasmine, on their show, who was pushing this entire new Epstein hoax, and CNN had to debunk it right on air. This is absolutely great stuff. Check this out.
Trump does not want these files to be out. To me, says that he has more to hide than him actually being able to exonerate himself.
And then the other email talking about that we used initially, I'm just trying to find that email so I can be really precise here, but it talks about how Epstein is emailing Maxwell saying that Trump was with a victim at his house for several hours. This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans are saying that that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that? And can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know.
Because they can't admit who the victim is, because otherwise then it deflates the entire thing. It debunks their entire idiotic fake hoax, which is of course being debunked by everybody. So everybody knows this thing is an utter nothing burger. In fact, it's the opposite burger. It actually proves Trump was vindicated. Trump was exonerated, and it makes the Democrats look like complete and utter fools.
Why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand,
Okay,
but I'm just saying, like, our biggest concern is to actually make sure.
So there you've got CNN saying the quiet part out loud. The Democrats redacted the victim's name. That'll be important when we get to the next segment on CNN. The Democrats redacted the name.
That we are protecting victims, and obviously she wrote a book, she told her truth. Whether or not she told everything, who knows? Again, another person that we can't talk to because we have yet another suicide around this. So I think that that's actually one of the things that we should talk about, is that the president has tried to call this all a hoax. I don't think you have this many people dying around a hoax.
Jeffrey Epstein was not a hoax. The attempt of the Democrats to tie Trump to it is the hoax. And Virginia Giuffre, as much as anybody wants to say that she terminated her own life, no, she didn't. No, she was murdered out in the outback in Australia where nobody could ever find her. It's absolutely ridiculous. We know what's going on. This is at some level an intelligence operation, whether it was U.S. intelligence, French intelligence, Israeli intelligence, all three of them, I don't know. This was clearly at its core an intelligence operation, a blackmail operation, a leverage operation, a honeypot operation, call it whatever you want. How deep does it go? I don't know that we'll ever know, because I think all of those files have actually been destroyed. They were actually destroyed by the deep state and the Democrats in order to hide all this stuff. That's what I think. I think when Pam Bondi says we don't have any Epstein files, I think to some extent she is being truthful in that anything that is actually damning of the deep state was destroyed, during the first Trump administration when he didn't have a handle on the deep state, and certainly during the Biden administration. Anything that was damning of anybody powerful, especially a Dem or a globalist, has been eliminated, deleted, gone forever. That's my personal opinion. But so you've got CNN. It's so bad that even CNN is having to CYA and push back against Jasmine Crotchet in this whole thing. Hey, as we get into the last part of this, I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Really appreciate everybody being here. Please watch every video from start to finish. Please like them. Please comment on them. And finally, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. All right, let's keep going, because CNN had they had Representative Stansberry, who is, we've seen her before because she's more than willing to stick her neck out and go step in a hole for the Democrats. She loves, I guess, stepping in piles of crap and doesn't seem to mind because she gets debunked almost every single time. But here she is on CNN pushing the hoax once again. And she is out loud and proud about trying to push this nonsense hoax. It's absolutely crazy.
Thank you so much for being with us. What are you taking from these emails?
Yeah, these emails are clearly extraordinarily explosive. They implicate the president, that he not only knew what was happening in Jeffrey Epstein's circle, but that he spent time with at least one, if not multiple, of Jeffrey Epstein's named sex victims, as well as there's discussion in the email that you just cited between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein about the fact that he had been the dog that didn't bark, and they specifically are talking about the police. So what this implicates is that potentially going back all the way to 2011, even after Jeffrey Epstein had been investigated for criminal activity, not just in sex trafficking, but also for financial crimes, which we know U.S. Attorney Acosta lied under his deposition about, that Donald Trump was being named by Epstein and by Ghislaine Maxwell as being the dog that didn't bark on them. And so the question is,
he's being named, in the emails, he's the dog that didn't bark because he's the one that didn't get hit. The victims never named Trump. Epstein never named Trump as implicated. Ghislaine Maxwell never named Trump as implicated. In fact, she is on record saying, no, he never did anything. So here you got Representative lying Melanie Stansbury once again doubling down on absolute falsehoods. She is hoping that no one in her district or that no one who watches this failed news network will ever actually look at facts. They're hoping that because they stick a representative on who spouts a bunch of lies, that people will just buy them. Well, people are over that. Only 20% of America even watches or trusts nonsense news networks like CNN. They're getting their news from alternative sources. And so they're starting to find out the real truth. So here she is completely lying about what the emails say, hoping that you'll never read them.
What did Donald Trump have on them? Was he engaged in these activities? And why is Donald Trump calling Republican members of the House today and yesterday to threaten them to get off of the discharge petition? If he thinks that we should be focused on the reopening the government, then why is he personally calling Republicans and threatening them right now?
So help us understand this, because Democrats redacted Virginia Giuffre's name. And I mean, I have to say, these emails.
It came to us redacted. No, it came to us redacted.
No, it didn't. Remember what I said to remember as we get to the end. They got these emails from the Epstein estate. These did not come from a security service. They weren't leaked from the Trump administration. They weren't redacted by somebody else. That, again, is an absolute falsehood. We know from the previous CNN clip that we showed you that they know the Democrats redacted the emails. We also know that because they got these emails from the Epstein estate. So they came to them ostensibly. If they got them from the Epstein estate, they came free and clear. The Epstein estate, because Epstein is dead, is not redacting victims' names, especially victims who are deceased. So we know from our own research and from CNN that these came from the Epstein estate and that the Democrats redacted them. So now you've got Stansbury trying to do the old Potomac two-step. She's trying to claim that, no. Oh, we got them redacted. We didn't do this. Yes, the Democrats did.
You redacted. Okay.
Yes, so we don't even know. That is the claim of the White House. So that's something that we should be asking questions about. Yes. Okay,
really interesting. So and House Republicans came out and mentioned.
And you notice how the host, who's got someone in her ear, quickly moved off that one, like, let's not go there, let's not go there. Because if they start agreeing, then they're going to debunk their own report from previous with Jasmine Ghetto Crockett on that said the Democrats redacted the emails, and which Jasmine Crockett said, yes, the Democrats redacted the emails. Crazy.
The redaction there. It is of significance that Virginia Giuffre, who was so vocal, right, and was not known for pulling any punches about what happened to her, did not accuse Trump of wrongdoing. And so I want to know kind of what you think of that, because there is this discrepancy. You have Epstein saying this in an email to Maxwell. Maxwell, we know about her in terms of her credibility. She doesn't really have credibility, right, when it comes to being honest. I'd say people have the same questions about Epstein. Giuffre has said that there wasn't she hasn't claimed wrongdoing with Trump. So how do you kind of square what you're reading in the email with what Virginia Giuffre had said publicly?
Well, first of all, like I just mentioned, we don't know if the White House's claim that redacted name actually is Virginia Giuffre. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But
so now she's kind of stuck because she realizes that CNN is not just going to roll over and let her say whatever she wants. They're going to push back at least a little bit. And as soon as they push back a little bit, she folds like a house of cards. Yes, the redacted victim is Virginia Giuffre. Yes, we know that she did not implicate. Yes, we know that Ghislaine Maxwell did not implicate. We also know that there is evidence and that there is claims that President Clinton was implicated. Yet there's crickets on him. The Democrats don't want to talk about Clinton at all. They don't want to talk about him in relation to the Epstein files, but they do want to talk about Trump. This gets very interesting. And again, we know that this is a giant nothing burger because if they really wanted if this was all about, like they said in the very beginning, when we played the first clip with Vince, where the tweet was, let's release all the Epstein files from the Democrat account on X. Now we know that this was nothing more than a political hit job, because as soon as somebody introduced a bill in Congress to release, to demand, and to force the immediate release of all the Epstein files, look what happened. This will tell you all you need to know about this fake hoax.
Everybody, Tim Burchett in Washington, D.C. today, of course, trying to open up the government, but I tried to make them release the Epstein files, and I was blocked by the Democrats. This is all gamesmanship, folks. It's not about releasing the files. If they had something on Trump, they would have released it. Biden had it for 4 years, and they hate Trump more than anything in the world. And so now they blocked it, and so they can piecemeal the truth and the half-truths, both sides, of what really went down with Epstein. And it's kind of disgusting, really.
So the Democrats on one side are saying, let's release all the Epstein files because we got Trump. He's in the emails. But as soon as push comes to shove and the Republicans go, okay, let's release them all. Nope. We can't do that. No, let's not be hasty. No, we can't do that. They don't want them released because they know that the only people really implicated in the Epstein files are libs. And specifically, now there might be Republicans implicated, that's true, but it's not Donald Trump. And it's certainly more lib politicians and power brokers than it is Republicans and conservatives. That's why they will never, if the Democrats have any say, they will never let these files see the light of day, which, this is my criticism. This is where the Trump administration has essentially backed themselves into a corner and fumbled this whole play. The only reason that the Democrats can make any hay out of this whatsoever is because we, the Republicans, we, quote unquote, the Trump administration, fumbled the ball. If we hadn't fumbled the ball, it wouldn't be on the gridiron to pick up. They should have released everything the day they got into office. Whether it was innocuous or not, they should have released it all and said, here it is, and they wouldn't be in this situation. Now, if there was nothing damning in there, as Pam Bondi let us know later on, then say it, release it all and say, look, this is all we got. We found everything that we can find in the government archives, and it is clear that during the Biden administration, the deep state and the Dems destroyed everything of value. If you'd have come out and said that in February or March, this would have been story over, and we wouldn't even be talking about it, and you would have gotten props and kudos for being transparent. But because you sat on it for months, and then because you issued a text basically saying, a memorandum saying, yep, there's nothing in the Epstein files, so we're not releasing them. Now you've got issues. Now you've got people who don't believe you. So you're going to have to do damage control. I'm not sure that Pam Bondi is up for it. I'm not sure. I think they're going to try to basically just wall themselves in and pretend this isn't happening. That's my concern. That's the wrong play. The right play is to release everything you've got, and let the chips fall where they may. But I don't think that's going to happen. So let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. But going back to this story is a giant nothing burger. It is the opposite of what the Democrats wanted it to say. And now they look like idiots, morons, and fools. So, hey, I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications for me. If you like this content, please share it with everybody that you know.